did this wrong. That should be so wrong.
I did avoid it.
This is so wrong.
What do you got? Oh, I want a lightsaber. I'll give you mine. No.
Whoops. So guys, when does it print out? What does it do?
Wait, I did this wrong. I did this wrong.
We gave you this code from before, right? To run it, test it.
What was I thinking? I'm the same thing as you. How could I do this? Which is mostly
Just do it. I am the
died. Since he's like a fourth grader, oh wait. So she just wow. Yeah, YouTube on YouTube. Dude, what was mine? So 2014. I mean, I'm 14. That's not bad. It became that's when you know everything was sideways. Actually, it's really nice. Dude, who's the line? Hey, you shh. Kiss my hand. Yes, I do.
I am unreliable, as you said.
Can you spell unreliable?
Yes.
Do it. Do it.
Hey, that's too much.
I am the Senate. Trash.
It's so bad.
Oh, this is trash.
Dude, show us that anime. Dude, that's the anime. Are you serious? You uncultured. I want to, but I feel like
Yeah, just a little bit.
do you like more or
So I was thinking recreating a data type already now.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Or
You will
I hate anime. Okay, that's a new level.
So now it's your actual culture.
Is the name or
Yeah,
the
it's
problem?
I'll show you double it. Send that to me on
Oh.
Hangouts. I'm too lazy.
You use Hangouts? Aw, so cute.
I was thinking of being a strong.
Wait, you're going to South Korea, right?
Yeah.
Oh, then it's okay. I use Hangouts and making calls and move.
Move a chunk of the string.
Me too.
I used to
I remember?
Yeah.
Well, because when you send me on Gmail,
Who's that's what's Anthony? Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I'll do mine now.
That's what I was thinking today. Or you guys, you try this?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not working.
It's not working. I'm fairly certain this will work.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. I'm fairly certain I'm doing this wrong. Yes, I am actually. I'm pretty sure that yeah, it doesn't work.
I will copy you. Maybe I'm too lazy to copy off the board.
Oh, I think I know
And my
why.
neck hurts, so I can't turn on the board.
They're lazy.
Oh my god.
Just like a steak.
Wait, what?
I've been part shooting up some stuff.
Remember, guys, ignore this little like S colon thing.
I'm sorry.
No, you're really bigger.
You were sorry. You were on.
That's like
I know what it means.
At some point, you gotta know that that resistance is futile. Surrender to the war.
The first time you said it, I was like, what?
And then you Google show your mom. Show your mom.
Oh no, it's gone. Oh,
And then I'll tell
Hey,
your
why are you so
parents.
desperate? You should have written it down already by yourself.
I do. I'm telling your parents
wrong.
today.
I'm pretty sure I am.
Already?
Dude, you're freaking 15. He's like, that's perfect. He'll be fine. There's the
See,
youngest mother ever is.
you're only like 9 with content.
You weren't even born yet.
So, guys,
Can you know?
what does it return? What does it print out?
False.
False.
I don't
Hold
know
on.
the way.
Okay, did anyone figure out what would make this true? What
With a palindrome.
should put a palindrome? How about an example of a palindrome?
Race car.
Race car.
Wait, how to do it? Hey, got it. Does this work?
Yes. It's TDA. Papi, ¿qué estás haciendo? I am a race car. Tractor. Oh,
yeah,
it's
it's
a
a
tractor. Whoa.
Yeah.
But how do you shoot?
You're enjoying it? Wow.
You know what?
First
Hard
time I've ever
times,
seen
you gotta
it. Awesome.
smile.
It's the same word.
I want to cover this.
It's
Oh,
amazing.
Okay, guys.
Called the onion.
So,
Not
palindrome.
the onion.
I did.
Hey, guys. Palindrome. So, what makes something a palindrome?
What is a palindrome?
It's the same word forward and backwards.
Yes, it's the same word forwards and backwards. So, here's what our code is doing to check that. We'll use race car as an example. So, what we do is we're calling is palindrome on race car. So we in string S now contains race car when we jump into this method. We grab the length of it just so we can check it. So we're going to go through exactly half of it. Because once we go through half, comparing it, flipping it, it'll still be the same. So what we do is we say we start with our for loop. We create it with I is equal to 0, and we say is I less than the length. So we pick race car. Race car is what, 7? R-A-C-E. Yeah, 7. So 7 divided by 2 gives us up to the lovely number 3. So what we do is we compare the character at location I against the character at location length minus I minus 1. So I is currently 0. What is length minus I minus 1? 6. 7 minus 0 minus 1 is 6. So in race car, I will type it right here just for to help out. Give it some spaces to make it easy to read. Here's location 0. Location 6 is the very end of it, because if there are 7 letters and we're accessing it by index, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we compare 0 to 6, and we say, are these the same? Remember, we have a not equal. So if they're not the same, return false. Are they not the same? No, they are the same. They both are. So we jump down to the bottom of our loop. We increment I from 0 to 1. We say is 1 less than 3? It is. So we compare char at I versus, again, char at length minus I minus 1. Currently, I is 1, so that's our A right here. We're comparing it against are 7 minus 1 minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6 minus 1 is 5. We get an A. So we're comparing the two A's. We say, are the A's the same? They are, so we don't jump in here. We go back up to the top. We increment I from 1 to 2. We say it's 2 less than 3. It is. So we compare the character at 2 versus the character at 7 minus 2 minus 1, or 7 minus 3, which is 4. So we look at it and we say, here's 2, here's 4. We say, are they both the same? They are. They're both C. And then we get to increment I to 3. We say, is 3 less than 3? It is not. So we jump out of the loop and we return true. So this compares basically letters from the end going backwards versus letters from the start going forwards through the string. And that's how you can find out what is and is not a palindrome. Okay? Are we clear on that? How that works?
Yes.
Comparing from the end going backwards, start going forwards? Okay. So, we're going to do our first one. We're going to create our own file. We're going to do a little bit of our own data type. So, in the past, we've just used data types that Java provided. The beauty of programming is that we can create our own data types, so we can do things. So, we're not going to create something ridiculous. We're actually going to replicate our integers. And we're going to make our own integer class that does all the same stuff as before. So, what we're going to do first, is create a new file. If you are in IDE 1, you can just. Can they run anything inside it? That's static.
If you upload the file, maybe, but I'm not sure if you can.
I'm not sure. I'll have to test it really quick in IDE 1. But if you're not on IDE 1, you're going to want to create a new file, a new Java class, okay? So, really quick, I want to bring my. Here, I'm just going to grab this so I can read it. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I want to create a new file. Again, how you do this depends on your IDE. I'm going to create a new Java class. What you want to do is I'm going to name it myInt. If you're in IDE 1, I'll have to test it real quick too. So we're going to call it myInt. I'm going to create a new class.
I don't know what the heck.
Okay.
Edward. Sorry.
For the weather.
Can't you put static main inside of as long as you're not because mains can't be instantiated, but you can still create a class even if it's got a.
I've never tried it before in
I haven't.
IE1, so I don't know.
I guess we can try it right here.
Yeah, we can try it.
I've got more errors than you.
Or an error.
It lets us.
More error than
Should we just do that then?
Human.
Does this work on
Successful human.
Yeah, it'll work on IDE 1. You just have to name the class something else.
Can't see.
Because remember, it's called public class IDE 1.
Yeah.
So can they change the class name? Also,
absolute value of that thing going to be success. Absolute value of successful value. Absolute
You sound like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. No, you're more like Simon.
Okay.
Now, you know he did the sound of Alvin in Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Yeah, I guess you can just change the class name.
Can you change it to myInt and then run it?
Kids these days trying to watch Paw Patrol.
Capital?
Let's put on some
Capital M, I think it might require that.
Yeah.
Just run it, I guess, for now. If it'll throw an error, we'll throw it
Switch
right
to
now.
Paw Patrol. Nothing compares to Rugrats. Rugrats, dude.
I guess
Yeah,
that works.
okay. So, okay guys, on IDE 1, here's what you're going to want to do. You're gonna rename your class. It's called public class my ID1. You want to change it to class myInt.
Wait,
It'll look like this.
wait, where?
Is that working?
Wait, what are you saying?
That's not the error, my dude. That's not the error.
Free trial.
What do you think the error is then?
The
You
error-
are.
This is a different project, my dude.
Oh my god, my dude. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know.
If you're in ID1, all you do is change
Change.
just the class name from ID1 to myInt.
So you need to import
So it
everything
says
back.
class ID D1. So
Just
Change it.
to my pin.
I got you.
Okay?
Intolerable.
So what we're going to be adding and running is
This is how you do it.
we're going to be doing what's called creating a constructor. Okay? So the first thing we need to do, our class needs to store information. When you create something, you need to give it some variables. So in this, we're going to give an integer value for it to store. Okay? We're going to call it value. Okay? So you can leave your main right here. Make sure this int value exists outside of your main, but inside the class. Okay? So outside of the main, note how it's not in the main's braces, but it's inside the class. It's in the class's braces. Okay? So once you have that, we're going to create what's called a constructor. A constructor allows us to create an object. So from before, for example, when we use new array, that was actually creating an array object. Okay? So this time we're going to make it so we can create our own. The way we create our own is by doing this. We start with public. Then we use the class name and then our braces. Okay? Public, the class name, parentheses, open, close, and then the braces.
Doesn't touch everything.
Okay?
Just paste something first.
Then you
When
want
you go
to
Control C first.
What?
one.
What?
No, you should watch it.
What are you trying to do?
It's great. Too long. It's 148 episodes.
Yeah, press it, press it.
There's One Piece. It's like 1,000.
I didn't do anything. What did it do? What did it touch
I
anything?
think you did.
Good.
No.
If you guys have questions, by the way, you can ask. But this is what your file should look like. Okay?
Before that.
I'll give you the imports as well.
You're funny.
What are the imports? There's Java UTL. What's the other one? Java Lang?
Yeah. Where are you using Java.star?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna let you.
See?
What's the fourth and third one?
Java.io.star.
Oh, the
I
IO.
know the way, okay? I can.
You know the way.
You know no way.
So this is what your file will look like, guys. Especially if you're in IDE 1. This is exactly what you can put in so far.
I can't see.
Import your info.
What do you mean you can't do it from? Exactly.
What do
You
you
should
need?
ID one and then copy paste it out. That's what I did.
It'll look just like this.
Yeah. Thanks.
Job.
Oh, this is your ball.
It's a smell. What?
Are we good? Okay, so when hey guys, when we call a constructor, what we need to do is we need to initialize the value here. Currently, every time we create it, it'll exist, but we need to assign it some value. So let's give it our default value of 0. Okay,
You see that? That's correct.
so it's right here.
It means nothing to me.
Should we make them private or no?
Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
Probably let's just make public, just get things easy.
Okay, so are we good with that so far? We're now going to replicate and create one very similar. We're going to do the same thing as before. This time, when we pass it in, we are going to give it an integer value that we pass in. We'll call it int x. Okay. So the last time I said I wanted to create a new place to store an integer value. So I assigned that value a default value of 0. This time I'm giving it an integer value. I say I want to create my integer class, my nice little myInt class, but I want to give it a value. So we want to store it locally in that object. So we say value equals x. We pass in some int. We're going to create a new object of type myInt, and then we're going to assign the local variable value to what we pass in. Okay, so it stores it for later use. Are we good so far? Everyone's gotten this?
Stop right there.
Why are you so bossy? You need to see please.
Is that better?
These millennials.
Okay.
Yes.
I wish I got for stick.
Are we good so far?
I want some biscuits.
Okay, there's one there. We're going to be writing some methods today that do exactly what integers do normally, but we're doing them with a class. So I'm going to give you one method that you need to help you with reading your output. It is called public string toString. Okay? You need to be very, very careful when you type this that it is exactly this header. Okay? It must be public. It must return a string. It must be called lowercase t, lowercase o, uppercase s, lowercase r, lowercase i, lowercase n, lowercase g. Be very careful. Okay?
Oh, you know
Once you do that, you're going to fill it with
I
this.
need to hold it longer. There, it's better. I knew that.
man. Okay, what's
Just so when they print the object, it won't return a reference line. Are we good? So we got this so far? You got exactly toString? Okay, really quick, just to make sure it works, we're going to create an object. So we're going to create, when we create an object, we name it myInt. We specify a type, the same way we do with creating a variable. Hey, shh. This is important, I promise you. We're creating our type, myInt, the same way we do like int x, int y, double b, boolean a. We specify a type, then we give it a name. I'm going to call it val1. Then when we specify, we need to tell it we want to create a new one. We don't have anything of type myInt yet. So we specify with new. Then we type myInt. And we'll leave it blank for now. And then let's print out val1. Okay? Also, something's not compiling down below.
Do we want it?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to change one thing, actually. We're going to return value.
The tops.
Make it once.
Number one anime that was Mufasa dies.
Isn't it like that?
What do you mean, thanks? No, when you think about it.
What? 58?
You know this? You need to get this checked.
So I'm gonna change this, guys, the bottom part right here, real quick. We're gonna change the toString method to do this, okay?
Oh no, shoot.
Just so it's clear, we're changing our toString down at the bottom, okay? We're just gonna give it an extra little bit of information, okay? So up at the top, I'll leave this slightly visible. Here's our main. It's up at our very top of our methods. I said I want to create a new thing of type myInt. I'm going to call it val1, and then I said I want to print it out. Okay? What happens? What does it print out?
Should I run this?
As a compilation error.
On your screen.
Well, I didn't do that.
Should just print out value colon.
You did that.
Maybe, yeah.
Is it void main or void main? It's void main. Void main. I think we should.
Oh, I'm sad though.
What?
Zero. It's zero.
I'm sorry, because I finished talking.
Oh, dude. Those cards.
Did we all get this? All right, ready?
Almost. Okay, that's the sorry.
Sorry.
Did we all get value colon 0? You good so far? Got it? Okay. So, I am going to really quickly talk through what exactly just happened. So, when we do a couple of changes. So, we said my int, val1 equals new my int. So what it did was I said I want to create something of type my int. I'm going to name it val1 and I'm going to say I want it to create something new. So we go down to our constructors. They look like this. You can identify a constructor as it does not have a return type and it matches the name of the class. Okay? It says I asked for my int with no parameters. Okay? They just open and close parentheses. So it jumps down here and says, okay, that's fine. Create a new object of type myint and assign value equal to 0. Okay? Once it does that, it finishes and says, great, I am done here. So then we say, I want to print out val1. Okay? When we print out val1, it goes down and uses the toString method to print out information. Okay? So I basically said, I want it to print this out exactly the way I tell it to. So I said print it out in this form. Print out value, colon, a space, and then print out the number it's storing. Okay? So when we call print line, it'll always print out exactly what's here in toString. Okay? So, really quick, if I wanted to print out and store the number 42, how would I do that?
You are choosing.
I'm going to get water. We'll be back.
Oh, I know the way now.
Stop. Kid.
You then.
Just make
God, bro, just make not so big.
It's so big? What made it this big?
Can't be go to bed.
No, Dad, he's not. Lord or Gigi, magic wand.
Chef, I know what you
You do not. Can you even spell the
Okay, guys. How would you do that?
Ching.
Change to 0 to 42.
How do I change 0 to 42?
In the line value equals 0.
Value equals 0?
Line 15.
What about our line 17?
We don't do anything.
We don't know what that does. I said if I pass in a value, it'll store it right where I want it. Here, doesn't this look like a method that's right there? And here's my method right down here that does almost the same thing with an integer. So which should I do? I'll give you a hint. It exists right here. If I wanted it to store 42 instead of just 0.
Type 42.
Type 42. Okay.
That won't work.
So, we'll run it. And it'll store exactly 42.
Got it.
So what happened was, I said, up here, I said, I want to create something of type myint. I want to call it value1. Then I say I want to create something new, a new integer, and I'm going to pass in the number 42, that integer value. It goes down here and looks for a constructor called myInt that takes in a singular integer argument so I called it x. It said, great, you gave me an integer 42. I will make that x. Then it assigns the local variable value to 42, which was x, and finishes. So when we print it out, it'll print out value, and then what was currently stored in value, which is 42. Okay? Are we good on that? Are we good? So let's have you guys try printing out like a number of your choice. 24, 16, 285. Pick one, okay? When we do add, should we just print out? Should have it return like a string of information? I guess you can return integer.
Yeah, we can just return it.
You know why?
Yeah, just have it return integer.
It's normal.
We'll do add, subtract, multiply, not divide. Just to be safe.
Yeah.
Just say, well, why not?
Dude, he's taller than you. Dude, you're literally like 2 feet tall.
What other integer ones can we do? Modulus.
My legs are taller than you. You know, it's kind of sad that you're having a
How do you want this?
Well, it's just fun. You just grab the value from each and do modulus.
Yes.
Oh.
R-O-A-S-T.
Okay, yeah, we'll have them do that one. Okay, so how would I change it? Someone, number of your choice. How would I get it to store that number?
Just type that number. Just type it in there.
Where?
In
Those parentheses.
In the parentheses.
Just
Between
write
them.
that there.
Yeah.
You wanted him to type it around them?
Around them?
He says on
24.
each side.
So, if we want to store value, we just put it in right here and it'll store it. Okay? As an example, 24. It'll store 24. Yes.
What if having the second constructor, the public myInt with no parameters?
With no parameters? Because you always want to have a default. It's just good programming convention.
Oh.
Also just good programming convention. Generally having a default. Causes some weird problems later. So, really quick, we're going to start making methods because integers are nice, but being able to do something with them is a lot more useful. We're going to scroll down here. And I'm going to add a new one. I'm going to call it public int add. Okay?
Hold on. Chill out, my dude. You're not my dude. What? Hold on.
He's not a rose. Maybe he's legitimately his dude.
Are you homophobic?
Yes, I
Oh, you just explained that you're this dude.
He sucks Meg or dead.
What?
What?
Say
it.
Okay, if I know.
Alive?
Okay, do we have this, guys? Typed out? Ready to go? Okay, so we have public int add. What we want to do is exactly what integers normally do. You add one to the other. So, what I want is to deal with that value. So, I said we're going to return something. We're going to do some math.
My computer's crashing.
So, here's my first value. I said I want to do addition. What is the operator for that?
I wonder. Oh, it's the minus.
The subtraction sign. Perfect. Okay. What could possibly go wrong?
You could put 2 of them.
You put 2 of them. Great.
Yeah.
Let's do some other stuff. So,
It's not. Hey, buddy.
So we have
Punch me.
You get the ID
What's
out
the
there.
value?
So we have value. Value is our locally stored value. Remember that locally stored integer value that we want to use. We're passing in another thing of type myInt. So we can't just use this though.
Connected.
What happens if I just try to do this? Type just RHS. I want to add that to this in and done.
I think I ate the internet.
I hate you. It's not loading. Are you serious?
That's what you get for punching it.
I punch it after it walks me off.
Wait, that produces an error.
I think that's
Alright.
Yeah.
Is it?
Come on. Hey, where's the light?
I don't know what I did.
You want to neutralize it?
Oh, really? Thank you very
I don't know what
much.
I did.
Yes, it's on. Yeah.
So
I have free
guys,
Wi-Fi in my van.
what is this error?
Wait, hold on.
Thanks.
What's it gonna tell us? ID 1 won't even tell you. I promise you. That's the adventure. What am I currently adding? What's the type myInt? And then what's the type of value? Right hand side is of what type?
My in.
Okay, and then what's the type of value?
Oh, value. Wait, what?
Integer.
So it's a method.
So I tried to add something of type myInt to something of type integer. Are those the exact same type?
No.
No. Can I cast from one to the other?
Yes.
No. That's an object.
I thought you.
One's an object and one's a primitive type. You can never add the two.
Oh yeah.
So what we have to do is we have to be a little more specific. Right hand side is of type myInt. It contains a single integer variable called value. What we really want to do is add the two numbers that are stored in our types. Okay? So when we do this, we need to be more specific. So I want to say I want to add value to right hand side's value, and it will our compiler error will disappear.
Stop shaking the tape.
Yes, yes.
Can you just pass me up, my dude? Just oil me out.
Boil you out. You're already boiling out. That is important.
Why did you say that?
What?
So-
I on TV.
What am I doing wrong?
So guys, let's use it. Let's do some addition.
The god.
So now that we have our addition, let's create two things. We want to add two myints together. So let's call this val2. Let's create a new myint. Let's pass in the value 256.
I am Ness.
Should we have a return of type myint so we can create a new myint and print it out?
Yeah, the what? The what?
Starting returns integer, echo integer.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it return type myint repeatedly? So it's easier to manipulate.
Oh, P-A-W.
So sorry, you need to come to yourself.
We'll leave it for
No,
now.
I tried myself. I just
tried
always
yourself.
brain.
So, guys, we want to add two numbers together. I defined our add method. How would we do that? How would we add them together?
Val1 plus Val2.
Val1 plus Val2?
I call blasphemy on that one.
What happens if we just do Val1 plus Val2?
That's an error.
Oh no!
I am so confused.
Wait, you do val1 dot value plus val2 dot value?
Yeah, sometimes.
Val1 dot value plus Val2 dot value? That's
Yeah.
close.
Then exit.
We defined a method called add that adds what you pass into the other thing.
Is there Wi-Fi?
So what we do is we need to specify a value to start with.
Val.
We then use what's called the dot operator. Okay, the dot operator means we want to use a method that exists in this class. Okay, we just typed one. It's called add. It's right here. We're gonna use it. So what we do is we pass in something. My IDE is telling me what we need to pass in is something called something of type myInt, called right hand side. So what can we pass in now?
Numbers.
Numbers.
No,
Val2. I like it.
me likes it.
So now what happens if we do val1.add and pass in val2?
I want it. It'll mush them together. It'll mush them together. It'll smash together. They'll smash together.
You're really good at roasting.
No, you must have
I said he was drunk while going and then he's like,
Do you know
Wait, so you're graduating, you're in 6th grade? You're going into 6th grade?
yeah.
kids.
So what class is your class? Yes, we got to be in high school.
What's wrong with you?
So just speak it.
Well, I was gonna work.
Wait, your class is 2021, so let's go. We missed that.
Wait, you don't miss me.
Yeah, I was
You said it's just a team ball, it's a good score.
next, no, senior.
Are we good so far, guys?
Freshman.
We get this working? It prints out 280.
Restaurant isn't that bad.
Are we good?
Tell me about it.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to say I want you to define a subtract method below.
Wait, hold on.
Okay? It's going to be almost identical. Called subtract. What I wanted to do is subtract one from the other. Okay? We have add. You already defined add. You wrote that. It does addition. I want one that does subtraction now.
Got you found. Hey, he's the teacher.
Once you have that, we'll come around and check it.
This isn't working. I'm gonna do this tomorrow because I didn't type anything, you know, I did some stuff. But I forgot the first part.
Keep your head to yourself. Does that make sense? I have no clue. I have no clue. I'm subtracting you anything. Alright.
Oh, yes, Jimmy.
Yes, Jimmy.
You just called me stupid? I feel hurt. Oh my god.
No, I'm not talking to you, Brian. I'm like legit saying this. It works.
Lessons in 30 minutes.
Please don't worry. Please, you will go.
What are we gonna do after this chapter? Or like for next time?
Got it.
Shut up.
Got it?
What is this guy doing?
1 second. We'll come and check it in a moment.
What is he doing?
Have some cues. Sorting and searching. I don't think we need designing.
I haven't read the creating and designing. I feel like it's not worth it.
Yeah. And I think beyond it, it's like that's the majority of stuff. Trying not to,
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
I think we should do full. We should do this again with exactly the same unit, but we should have a better example. Like fitting house.
yeah.
And we can do getters and setters next time. Okay, we have to check it. Okay, guys. Anyone got it? Subtract method.
Wait,
Taking too long.
very close.
Very close.
Because I didn't do anything.
Wait, what
No, I didn't. I can't know. It's under. I keep saying errors.
Type better code. It's your
I just say compilation and then I say the compilation forever and it never says compilation error. Oh, it's fun. It's compilation. I only had.
So let's see how everything is tabbed in once, and then everything tabs back over. You should do that. You're supposed to do that. So it's easier to read. Go up to the line where it's like, just go to whatever.
You are. Roasted. I just roasted myself.
While we're doing this, you want to create something?
Yeah, I know.
It is potential roasting. We could have a string class and do character.
Finally, it's working.
How would we do string classes?
What?
And then we do
I
entire
lied to definitely.
or we're just like reference to how.
Oh, wait, yeah. What is that guy?
Like right now we're doing this kind of guide. Next one we do like fairly.
It's the word of the Nazi stand.
And then we're gonna do the string class.
Isn't that?
That's what I was saying. We do string class.
I feel like it's so
And I want to create like a house.
Dude, your bedtime's like 8 o'clock, okay? I don't know how
I don't know what we should do for that yet.
No.
Well, you guys, who does not have a subtract method so far?
I need help.
Need help?
Because my program is not going to
I did that.
I got confidence. Okay. So I
You didn't copy two of them correctly.
See, there's no error. The end, there's nothing. There's no success either.
That's just like your life, because there's none.
Oh, there's no success in my life. I don't know.
But I'm neutral, right? Okay, then you're compilation.
What? What? I don't think that's how it works. Yeah, I have trouble compiling my thoughts.
Yeah,
Because I'm too
you have
smart.
too much
Because there's too many.
wrong thoughts.
Not those kind of thoughts.
You have wrong
Why is it semicolon?
No, but they told me to say you're missing.
My thoughts be dirty.
Yes, you added a semicolon. How does my division thing? And then you're missing this. You're missing a lot of things.
Yeah, I realized that. We did
But it's still like a liberation.
And you don't have an ad. You don't have an ad either.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I also got all the
Who?
my other code was destroyed.
Oh, no, it's not.
There wasn't anything you had to do. You just had to copy the code down. Here's ad. You want this down?
I had that.
I'm not sure where I got that.
I wish we could do overloaded operators in Java.
Oh, I think that was
Really, kind of confusing.
Well, it's just the construction's confusing. Then once you use it, it's easy. You're just like, oh, duh.
Oh yeah, I remember now. You know how you can do control Z?
Honestly, these two things I remember.
Like I accidentally deleted everything like after I
Wait,
stopped.
you can do control.
No, you can't. You can't. For me, it can't.
I can't for you. Look, I'm gonna go with this control C.
What? Wait,
You want to know something weird that I learned about Java recently?
Oh no.
So you know the string builder class and the string class, how they're two different things.
Yeah.
So when you do string concatenation, it's a compile time
It works.
operation when it concatenates strings for
I
you.
think it was compilation. So
And when you do string builder, it does runtime concatenation.
So if you have errors with string, you're not going to see them until they.
They runtime there, yeah. But if you do it with string, you'll get a compile time there. And also your program it'll take longer to compile but run faster if you're using just string additions, not string builder. String builder allows you to not plague the literal string pool with all your yeah.
Am I winning yet?
String builder allows you to not plague the string pool like literal, the string pool with all like random stuff. Because when you define literal strings, it creates them in the literal pool, and so your string builder just holds it in its own like string value, but it does not add to the literal pool as a defined constant.
I think I used to like one entirely. Yeah, I don't remember what I did with it.
Yeah, I just thought it was super interesting, like to learn that, like, cause I was doing the why you can't use equals equals and have to use dot equals and things like that. And that's when I found it out.
Oh, she just looked up like string comparisons.
Yeah, there was like a thing about string versus string builder, and then this person was talking about that. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, compile time it does like because that's the only time in addition
He makes me go
where you can add two objects. Because strings are type objects; they're not actually a defined primitive type.
You're
It's
the
like a
least
pseudo primitive
valuable
type.
person here.
So they actually have the overloaded plus sign just in that
You
one.
don't get those.
It's kind of cool. But yeah, it's interesting. And it's a compile time operator, not a
What
runtime.
are those? You trust this dude?
What are those?
Okay, guys, how would you do subtract? I have one right here.
Put subtract instead of add. And then you have to change from plus to a minus.
So, value minus right hand side dot value. Great. Okay. We're gonna do a couple. I want you to add a couple more. I want you to add multiplication, division, and modulus.
What? Oh, the remainder thing.
Remainder, yes. It's called modulus.
How do we do that? It's the
Same thing as before. If you would like to know how to spell modulus, it looks like this.
Can you split? Let him spell it.
See, I spelled it.
Okay.
How much and reverse could I eat then the add? What did we the add? What was that?
I am the Lion
I
King.
really want to tell them to use a for loop and use modulus in the multiplication.
I saw the Phantom of the Opera. I
Yeah. Okay, guys. There is one requirement for your for multiplication. I want you to use a for loop and your addition function you already have.
Why? What? Why though?
Because it would just be another changing one thing.
We need a for loop. What?
So, in your multiplication, I would like a for loop.
Why?
How so? Please clarify. Please.
I will say, as a massive hint, when you do 4 times 5, 4 times 5 is also 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5.
Or it's 6 plus 6 plus 8.
So, multiplication is repeated addition. How would you go about implementing that?
A for loop of the same number.
Can we not? My head hurts.
I asked that your head hurts.
I will tell you, this is as a hint. You should create one called int answer at the top
This is so complicated.
and make it equal to 0. You would want to return this below the for loop.
I just like it when my brain is fried.
You want to add code right here for multiplication that allows it to do repeated addition so many times.
I have no idea.
What?
No idea.
Alright, yeah, I'm so confused.
You are always confused.
If I'm confused, you're a piece of error.
I'm a piece of error.
You're an error.
So he's your E and you're R.
What's your
I don't have one.
Do it.
Oh, I
Did I tell you someone I know has almost 200,000? 200,000 cram score? I don't know how they got that many. I'm like, how is it just like all you do is just like. Seymour Sen, you guys want. About 100,000.
the power. They just took something high.
I don't think you eat something that's well.
Hey, you want an edible?
You just cannibalize the person.
You're a cannibal?
You are a cannibal.
You know what? I need to refresh.
No, it's my notebook.
You
lost it?
Can you please just send me the? I tried really. It was running. You got it.
No, no, we're
No,
making
you
it
got
drop.
it.
No.
Yeah.
You gotta believe.
You sound like.
Come on, kid.
Come on, kids, ride with me. Come on, tractor.
Can you just stupid input equals 140 and there's 2 sets of input you can just put
Multiply in Mayan cannot be applied.
我的话，我进去大是哪有？ What?
Wait, you said I was OG, right? You're old. That's OG. I'm gonna say something. Copy, baby. Oh, in Japanese, it means starts with a P. Y.
You're incorrect. Penny. I want that penny right now. I'm so confused.
Oh.
Oh, you want the penny? That makes no sense.
What are you saying, bro? I think that's how it works.
Oh, not seriously. Oh, he's watching Barbie.
We want to use, wait, pointers are added. Add returns a type integer.
Okay, yeah, I actually need to get some content.
So calm.
Answer plus equals.
Oh,
Because it
we
returns type
an
integer
exception here. I'm sorry.
each time.
Yeah.
So how can we use our add method?
You got 1 year,
You go
I
up
must have
on
What's this?
Oh, dude.
It's returned from
You know what my
the
jam is?
Wait,
Clean up song.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
What are you doing?
Is it Caillou or
I'm so good. Caillou? Oh my god, he's one of those millennials. Okay.
I'm just
Dude, I grew up
I'm
with
so
Clean Up
yeah,
Song.
so more. I
Can you give us another hint?
I'm just
Wait, no. That I think we understand just fine.
Come on, you go a little bit.
Another hint.
Come on, fine.
Can you give us a hint on line 35?
Line
35.
Okay, 35. Oh.
I think I got this one.
Oh. That's erasing the hint. That's
My dude.
no.
It's a new hint though.
No, it's not.
It's different than before.
Yeah.
Should I just do it?
It's not correct.
Just walk.
Can you explain that by the way?
He just walked.
Just walked out.
with this crap.
Well, you still need to sheet. No, it's because I was trying to help you. Me? Yes. I was on another question that I got on 30 minutes ago.
Equals I.
Who's you?
Look at this.
So you're like your uncle or something?
I was helping you, my dude.
You know my uncle?
Hey.
Hey, hey. Hey, you don't sound like though. I'm gonna sit down.
No.
Okay.
Actually, I think I keep. What's he gonna find?
Oh, there should be a return.
Oh wait.
What are you saying?
Okay, can we get a hint in line
Oh, no.
I don't know 38?
Okay, if you don't want to use add, you don't have to. How about that?
What are you saying?
You don't have to use the add function. Or the add method, sorry.
I don't know what you're saying.
No, it's an add function.
Yeah, we created
Yeah, we
it. It's
created
right
it
above.
there.
Oh yeah.
Have you not
Don't-
been paying attention?
Don't have to use that.
Me? Can I use it now for a second? Yes.
Can you show that?
Because remember, if I said 4, if I wanted to compute the answer 4 times 5, I can say that's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. If I did 6 times 3, that's 6 plus 6 plus 6.
Or 3 plus 3 plus 3.
Can we not?
Either one.
Stop playing mind games.
I have no idea.
This is programming.
I don't like it.
Oh, you're fun.
That's fine. That doesn't still have to do this though.
Huh? How come we only have one answer? I don't know. You ask him. What? Like I know this.
Oh, here.
Multiply by 0. That's an error.
Can you give us a hint there?
Inside. Dude, that's the easy part. Why are you doing this?
You didn't even give us
Okay,
a
R and S dot value. We know that. Okay, now what?
That's the question.
Have you just been copying off me?
Remember, this is an integer. Answer is an integer. What you have right here is right hand side. It is of type my integer. If I would like to get the value from the integer, we use that dot operator.
You're losing your crit. My crit.
So, if we want to use that plus sign, we have to be specific.
Wait a second.
You know that you are. Can you spell second?
I'm not that stupid. If I'm not, then you're more stupid than me.
Dude, I love this kid's knowledge. Okay, like, come on.
My logic is.
Are you logic?
Oh, I have logic, yes, thank you.
Yeah, he has logic.
It's oh, I
Okay, so I'm a kid. Hey, kid.
Oh, so his name is. I actually.
Hey, remember that giant
Or S dot value. But then, that's the question.
Okay, you know what? Let's think like Indiana Jones did. Okay?
Oh.
Let's just be innocent.
Oh, I got it. Oh my dude, wait, so if you have like
That's not gonna work.
I actually fell 5 times because you're playing.
oh, concussion. What? Maybe I do now.
I am the sinner.
I think I'm gonna go to sleep sad tonight.
Seriously?
I am the son of
Enter plus Master Jedi.
Yeah, we know that part.
Now I'm dying because.
So it's filling in one part. What do you need to put here?
Why are you dirtying me, Master Jedi?
Something times something.
Something times something.
I wonder what somethings are.
If I said this was,
Okay, that's stupid. Why would I do that?
if I said this is 4 times,
How about 2?
if I said this is 4 times 10, currently I'm gonna run through that loop 4 times. So what do I need to add to my running total?
I need sand. I hate sand. It's not included, so it gets everywhere.
This is a job for Google.
Okay.
Oh, he's already on.
That'd be kind of
Something plus something equals something.
It's gonna loop through it, guys, some amount of times.
I have cows.
If we're doing 4 and 10, it's gonna loop through it 4 times. How many times do we need to add the other value?
4 times.
4 times. So what would go right there?
I don't know. My brain's only.
It's okay.
You can only fix the dead division.
You have a homework.
Where?
I was gonna say implement division and subtraction. But this is gonna be too much.
I understand right now.
What?
I don't know how to understand. So like,
Dude, we get it.
Done.
Yeah.
0.
Stop, no typing, you cheater. If you type, you're not gonna. I don't get it. See, let me look at your computer.
Is it value?
Is it value? It would loop 4. It would loop 4 times and then add 4 each time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So that would give you 16. I want to do 4 times 10.
I don't know, man.
I don't know, man.
How about you just use a calculator? Yeah, just use a calculator.
Like that.
Like my keyboard passing or something.
Calculator. I seem to have some compiler errors in that.
Oh, God.
You have to write actual
Don't
code.
take things literally. T30X. Do you know? Let's literally, let's use. I got 40.
I think
Let's use log.
maybe they're okay on
Did you not do that?
Let's use log. Let's use log base.
It's a dude.
Log base of 1600.
Steps or making
Log base. Log base 40. Natural log. You
And
need.
actually, it means
What do we do right now?
You already know log.
Yeah, probably just get a board next time. Maybe we should start with like more coding. It's like, just,
I haven't been enough with coding when you were 1.
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, what do they know how to do right now?
Eric,
Apparently
Ryan.
nothing though.
Yeah.
Dude, what's up?
Come on, guys.
oh, that's ridiculous.
I used to
Think about it.
I don't know.
What's 4? If we're talking about 4 times 10.
Is that?
base is the
So how do we're gonna do something 4 times. How many times? What are we adding? What's
10 times 10.
where is 10 stored?
I don't know. I have no clue. Value?
Value is
that's
currently
dumb.
4.
No.
We called it on right. We passed in our right hand side. It is of type myint. It stores the value
I
10.
have a great idea. We should just ask Siri and like, yes. Help us solve it. I think a calculator is smarter. Siri. I'm ready.
Holy crap.
Just ask Siri. 4 times sine 90 times 40. Wait, that's 160. Wait. Sine 90. 4 times sine
Long day today.
times 10.
It started when I was born.
So 4 times sine 90 times 10. Do it.
It's hard for me.
So I got 40. Do it.
No, it's hard for me too.
Where does our sine 90 come in?
Okay, wait. Okay. Natural log. We're supposed to use common log. E to the 40. We're supposed to use common log. Natural log of e to the 40th power to 340. Nobody cares. I'm done. Okay,
You know, what have we not used so far?
I don't know, man. While loop. What did you know? While loop.
Yikes.
I remember.
Do people not learn that multiplication is repeated addition is so common core has come to? Jesus.
I don't think there's very many other variables.
How many variables are left, guys?
This is common core's fault that I don't know how to do this. It's not common core. You should don't stop.
How many variables are left, guys? Let's be real here.
Like 4 or 5.
Okay, name all
the remaining variables we haven't used.
A, B, C, D.
You guys are feeling the final. That's for sure.
Just realized.
I'll give you a hint. There's a variable in the function in the method header.
Which line? What is a header?
There's a variable right here.
Val. RHS.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I tried that. So what do I do with that?
And it didn't work. What happens when you try to add something of integer to type myint? What happened when we tried that before?
You kind of died.
It didn't work. We wanted to talk about the actual number stored in myint.
RHS.value.
RHS.value.
Wait a minute. This does not make sense. Oh, dude. It smells like pasta, but it's not. What? Kimchi? Can someone just slap me with a puchinchi now?
Yes.
I put 10 in over here. And it says like sensor and I got 4. I like how you can just like I'm this.
Yeah, so that's
I'm sorry.
whatever the right hand side is exactly 10.
Do you want my nut?
Yeah, so you want to change each side.
He's like, it's really bad.
What? You can't accuse me of that. Can you stop touching my calculator?
Oh, what the heck just happened to my page?
Your page?
No, seriously.
You mean your Squire? What is this joke?
5 seconds.
Squat.
It is.
Go down. You go down. Please.
No.
You
You just said the answer.
How? It doesn't work.
You said the answer.
It doesn't work. He's lying. He's trolling. But I don't have an answer to world peace. Okay.
No, I got you.
Put it world with team
So the answer.
I know.
You have 3 minutes to figure it out.
Yes.
Come on. Yes. Oh, are you serious? Come on. Come on. Okay, wait. We got all that, but like.
I'll stop here.
Oh my god.
Answer plus equals, and you
ching,
said
ching.
it.
Wait. Not working.
It's right over.
There it is.
Wait, what? Oh wait, you need to put an int. Int I? Yeah, that's why I was saying error. What?
Did you remember?
Oh, 19. Wait a minute.
Wait, I don't get this. My head hurts.
Just sauce me up.
Pass on the carry now.
I don't think this is right.
I think it is right.
I
think it works.
Wait,
And math agrees with me.
Huh? Huh? Okay.
Multiplication is repeated addition.
It is?
No, it's not. My math teacher would disagree.
The definition of multiplication is repeated addition.
Then why don't we just use addition?
In case you cared, that's true. We don't actually have a valid definition of multiplication in terms of anything other than addition. So,
It's not repeated addition. It is young pupils. It is in.
so we're gonna cover why this works, and then we're gonna call it for today.
That's a mark.
So,
Second is not repeated.
I know what it means.
here's what happens, guys. I'm currently using 4 and 128. So 4 times 128 is 512. So what happens is I'm calling multiply. Remember, there's a value stored in my current object, and then I'm passing in something with a right-hand side. So the current one I'm calling it one stores the value 4 in value. The right-hand side stores the number 128. So I'm keeping a running sum of all the values, okay? This is just a running total. I'm going to loop through it. I equals 0. Value is currently 4. Okay? Hey guys, shh. I is currently 0. I is less than value. Our local value is stored as 4. So 0 is less than 4. So we go in here, we say answer plus equals right-hand side's value. Right-hand side's value is 128. So we increment, we add 128 to 0, so we get 128. We increment I from 0 to 1. 1 is less than 4, so we add right-hand side to our current running sum. 128 plus 128 is 256. We finish that, we increment I from 1 to 2. 2 is less than 2 is less than 4. So we can do it again. 128 plus 256 is like 300 and whatever that is. 309 or whatever. 379. Yeah, 379. So then once we have that, we increment I again. I goes from 2 to 3. We add right hand side to our running sum. We then get 512. We get increment I from 3 to 4. We say is 4 less than value. They are the same, so it returns our answer for 512.
I am so confused. I'm just gonna do it. I can answer now. Yes.
Hey, I got you and some.
So
Oh.